Good evening, everyone, and welcome to summer. I would like to get started with our regular Board of Education meeting for June 18th, 2024. Can we begin, please, with a Pledge of Allegiance? All rise. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you, and I would like to share our values for BHUSD: excellence, integrity, wellness, inclusion, safety, community. Our mission is educational excellence. Our vision is that our students will realize their full potential to thrive with integrity in a complex, changing world. With that, I would also like to welcome the first board meeting attendance of our newly elected BHEA board president, Katie Warren. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Dr. Breggy, any action from closed session?
I'm going to make a motion to approve the agenda minus item 14B.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Breggy, any action from closed session?
Yes, Dr. Stern, thank you. In closed session, the board approved two different items. The first item is a settlement agreement between an employee, number 25260, and the Beverly Hills Unified School District. That was 4-0. And in closed session, the board approved the settlement for case 2169156, and that is also 4-0. And that is my report.
Thank you very much. Public comment. We have members, we have two folks who are on Zoom. Are we ready, KBEV? Okay, we're going to begin with Rochelle Labby, and Tal Labby ceded her time,
sure but I feel like the screen is on me, so I should start talking.
We can't hear you, sir.
Thank you, Superintendent Dr. Breggy, members of the board. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
One second, I just want to introduce you properly.
For all your hard work.
Can you hear us?
I wanted to say a few words, and thanks for giving me the time to do that. Thank you, Dr. Breggy, for your response earlier today. We understand the calculations and the challenges that you explained. That said, the maximum allowable class size is 29. That's correct. But the maximum allowable by law, by district, is not the same as a guideline for a healthy number, a number that will support children's educational and emotional needs. I understand that the class size for the 4th and 5th grade has been much closer to 20 children for many, many years, and for good reasons. None of those reasons have changed. In fact, the need for smaller class size is now acutely necessary. An adult cholesterol level of 240 is at a high risk of all sorts of negative health outcomes. That doesn't make 239 a healthy guideline any more than one less than 30 kids make a healthy class size. Our amazing police department and fire department don't strive for the max allowable response times. The Beverly Hills INO doesn't aim for or achieve the bottom of anything. I'm not sure why we have chosen our children's class size to start aiming for the maximum allowable rather than what's best for our children. If money is the issue, I'm sure the parents will help bridge the gap. The parents would like to understand specifically what is the challenge that has caused the massive increase in class size to 4th and 5th grades this year. And we would like to be part of the problem solving with you to help overcome those challenges. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your efforts.
Thank you. That was actually Ben Haguli. Thank you so much. Next, we have Rochelle Labby. This is still Ben. Do we have Rochelle Labby?
Can you hear me?
Hi, Rochelle. And you have 6 minutes as Tal Labby has ceded 3 minutes to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for being here and always doing due diligence with our children. Dr. Breggy, thanks for getting back to me today. I I haven't heard back from the rest of the board for my email, but I'm assuming it's because I know how hard you guys work. And I'm assuming you're doing research and talking to the admin and the teachers and the specialist teachers to really understand the serious behavioral issue that is impacting Hawthorne's will be now 4th grade. So I appreciate everything that you guys are doing for our children and not really understanding this issue. Dr. Breggy, in your email, you discussed numbers and money, and maybe I misunderstood, but it sounds like there's $22 million that's being held from last time's meeting. I could be wrong. I don't know, but I'm sure parents would figure out if it is actually a financial issue. Something that you had mentioned in your email is that, Beverly Hills School District's comparing it to the other districts around. I don't know if that's something that we should be doing as a whole in this district. The median purchase house price in Beverly Hills is $5 million, and the median home rental price is $15,000 a month. And additionally, there are severe behavioral problems going on, and in an LUSD school where I came from, these things actually could not ever happen the way they are happening in Beverly Hills, especially in my son's now to be 4th grade class. So I'm not sure we should be comparing ourselves to other districts because we don't have the behavioral stuff down yet. How to implement behavioral changes with these kiddos. I think I'm glad that you guys are implementing behavioral changes and figuring out systematically too, how to create behavioral supports for the teachers, admin, and kids. But in the 18 months that I've been in the Beverly Hills schools, nothing has changed. And I've actually been on the behavioral committees at our specific school, Hawthorne, and, Dr. Breggy, as I was there in the summer with you. And I'm so glad that we can come together and really question and wonder how to help and how to support it, but we haven't figured it out yet. And to make bigger classrooms than what they had last year without figuring it out is going to severely impact each child and teacher's mental health and their academic scores and achievement. So I'm not sure why, without understanding, it sounds like the board, from what I understand, is you guys didn't realize how severe the behavioral issues are, and that I put on myself. Actually, I feel like I did a disservice not coming in earlier to explain it. I didn't realize the communication in this district is the way it is, but I'm learning the district, and that's okay. Where everyone is doing their best. But I'm not sure why we would change it when there was such severe impact on the children last year, and we don't have it down. So with all the behavioral modifications that we want to, happen, it hasn't happened, and it's definitely not going to be able to happen in a bigger size classroom. If you guys want to do this, I do want, for whatever reason, then maybe you guys need to create a behavioral classroom with, severe support, lots of supports, and take this 5 to 6 kids out of each of the 4 classrooms last year and create your own, their own classroom, so you can have that support and maybe figure out what they need and what the school needs to positively impact the school and these children, because all these 87 kids at Hawthorne, or whatever the number is, are impacted severely. And it ends up that the kids who are having the behavioral problems are suffering, and the other kids are suffering. Everyone is suffering. So, thank you for not getting back to me. That means that I guess you guys are really trying to understand the situation. I do know that I will keep coming back because each child does count, and it is important. And I don't want to go another year with my son missing out academically and his mental health being impacted because things, are just sliding by. I'm not going to let this slide by. And I feel like it was a disservice that I didn't come quicker, and it will be a disservice if I don't come in every 2 weeks and talk about what goes on every 2 weeks. So, the board, the higher admin can really understand next year what's going on. So I will be back, and I just I know you guys haven't made a decision yet, so thank you for listening.
Thank you, Rochelle. We now have Adria Karen, who is here in the audience. Adria, welcome. Adria, you have 3 minutes.
Hi. I just am here to try to find out what's actually on the planning of Hawthorne School. I've been after this for a while, and I'm always hearing, I don't know. I own a property across the street, and I've seen a lot of changes happening on that street, and I feel like somebody knows something, but I don't know it. So I would like you guys to please inform me of any potential plans, even just wishes and done deals, and let me know as a resident. I live on Alpine, and I own a property at 613 Rexford. I'd like to know what's going on, what's really going to happen with Hawthorne.
Thank you so much. Okay, and anything further? You do have 3 minutes.
I do want to mention I'm super deaf and hard of hearing, so if you want to scream, that's fine with me.
We will have some communication out to you. As soon as decisions have been made, we are in discussions with the city about the Hawthorne property.
But what are those discussions? Are those discussions to remodel it, to sell part of it, to change its entire architecture? I've been looking at that school for 78 years. So I love that school. I care about that school. I think it's an architectural gem. And it would really be heartbreaking to see anything ruined or destroyed. They've done a phenomenal job adding buildings to that property. And as far as I'm concerned, if it were a private school, it would be in the stratosphere in terms of tuition, because it's just such a luxury, gorgeous school. Also, as you know, from my last time I was here, I was a little bit shocked at El Rodeo, which there's very little remnant of the old El Rodeo. It's now a kind of a anonymous architecture. Not blaming anybody here. I'm in property management, and it's a tough job, and there's a lot of decisions to be made. Very concerned about what's going to happen in terms of the air quality inside that school, and I'm hoping that you keep Hawthorne available in case for some reason you might need to have a backup if things don't work out at El Rodeo. There are some issues there, which I'd be happy to tell you about, maybe not on TV. I don't know how to get hold of you, but I also went to Beverly Hills schools. I know Noah since he was a very young kid, and his mommy. So I'm familiar with how Beverly Hills works, and I love it here. I love what you're doing. I think it's fantastic. I commented very enthusiastically about a lot of the programs that you've put in since I've been in school, which are phenomenal. But I really care. I really care about the city, and I'm not going to let it go. Hawthorne, I don't want to see it changed. I don't know what you're going to do with it. I have plenty of ideas. I think it's really important that you get the residents involved before decisions are made, even if it needs to be put to a vote. It would only be fair to people who live across the street. Thank you.
Thank you. Good questions.
But I still don't know what's going on.
So here's what we're going to do. If you can leave your email address with Mr. Haas, who's right by the door
Okay.
on your way, is that if you give your email address, I'll give you the link to the last city meeting that we had with the school district. That will put you right up to where you need to know. That'll be the latest information, and I'll send you that link. So Mr. Haas is right there, the handsome guy right at the door.
Can we participate also with those meetings?
There was a survey that went out by the city asking for some input.
Didn't get
it.
Okay.
But we'll let us get you updated on what you're going to see. A Hawthorne school will always be a Hawthorne school, and so
Yes.
we're going to keep it in good shape. You want us to be in there because we want to keep water running, we want to keep lights on, we want to keep it going.
And I'm watching it every single night.
Well, we'll
So you
soon
can
be
call
able
me
to
if
wave
you have
to
any
you.
questions.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I would like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar minus item J.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'll
Okay.
make a motion to approve the ratification of the purchase order report number 20 for 2023-2024. We have a second?
I'll second. All in favor?
Oh, I just had a
Oh, go ahead.
comment on this one. So this PO includes the purchase of the iPads, which is something that I have raised this issue before. And I just want to remind everyone that in August of last year, together we created our cell phone policy. And now, 1 year later, in the news the last week, we've been hearing that LAUSD is actually, creating a cell phone policy. And they actually have a cell phone policy to ban the cell phones to certain extents, but now they want to put some teeth in it and really create a path forward in order to effectuate their cell phone policy. And that really made me think of our iPads. I also read in the last couple weeks that the governor of New York wants to do a statewide ban of cell phones in the classroom. And when I look at the iPad, to me it looks like a big cell phone, essentially. And I just want to reiterate that when we did the cell phone policy, there was a little bit of anticipation and discomfort, but we led in our industry in doing the best for our kids. And so I just want to remind our staff that yes, and I fully respect my colleagues, it was passed 3-1 in support of the iPad purchase. However, we also gave the instruction to please look into it and please really diligently figure out what are our youngest and older learners using the iPads for. So I will absolutely support the purchase order and vote to approve of it. That's not what I'm saying. I just want to reiterate that we approved of it, but we also asked for a little bit of work to figure out what is it going to pay for.
Right.
So I just
Can I
And we
respond to
will-
that as well?
yeah.
I apologize.
Yeah, please, Dr. Smith
No.
and Dr. Breggy.
So the iPads versus the cell phone and the cell phone policy, to me, those are completely different issues. So, for example, with the iPads and questioning whether younger audiences should use them and to what degree, and we all agree there's a threshold where it's actually aversive. My understanding is a lot of these iPads were used for like the 3D printers and makerspace and things like that. The cell phone policy is a whole other issue entirely, and actually, during member comments, I was going to address this because I am aware that LAUSD is thinking or considering banning them. LAUSD has also created an AI assistant for every student. So make no mistake, LAUSD is not necessarily jumping off of tech. They may be considering this about cell phones, but they are embracing this AI sort of a bot that assists your children in many ways, even gives quizzes by way of device to your children. The other thing, and I'll say more about this during member comments, is that what I've learned from 25, 30 years working with students, especially high school and middle school students, and it's not a popular thought, but bans, just flat out bans for teenagers do not work. Because let me tell you what happens. When you do a ban, they end up going to the bathroom and they do different things. They're smarter than us in a lot of ways. I'm not saying we throw our hands up and say, okay, well, let's let them be in charge. I'm not saying that. But when you realize that with cell phones, including with adults, we do a heck of a lot more on our phones than just social media. And so, we also don't want to punish responsible, good students who literally just want to use their phone so they can say, hey, where are you right now for lunch? I want to meet with you. I'm thinking of the honor student who has all A's, and I know that particular student. I'm thinking about the introverted student who wants to take a moment during lunch and they want to be by themselves, but they want to read on their phone or they want to look at pictures. So I think that if we just say, we need a flat out ban, we're going to have a lot of unhappy students and we're going to have a lot of logistical problems. I just further going to say this, and then we can move on with the meeting. The idea of cell phone holders, whereby you come into the classroom, you deposit your phone, there's an ID that corresponds to your phone, and enforcing that with teachers and supporting and enforcing and giving positive praise to those teachers that are able to do that, which is a steady which is quite a tall order for teachers actually to do that. But for those who do that, I would submit that that is actually a much more realistic thing to do with the older grades, is that it absolutely is not on their person during instructional time, and we do ban it in that sense. But to just ban cell phones and to handhold that kid who really looked forward to showing his best friend the video he made for his AP animation class is unfortunate. But it's a larger conversation. I would ask that we actually go on now to our other items.
Mandy, hold on. I just want to respond. Mm-hmm. I'm not advocating a ban of any sort. What I am saying
younger
is that
kids, sure, but bans with teenagers.
I'm not. We don't have a ban. What I'm saying is that we customized a cell phone policy which is appropriate for the different grade levels, and we put one in place for the elementary school, and we put a different one in place for the middle school, and then we put a different one in place for the high school. I think we're all on the same page there. What I am saying is that we as a board and as a district were leaders in that thought that maybe at the time was not the norm. And so now as we're looking toward using our iPads, I just want to be very thoughtful and intentional in what we're using them for. I'm not speaking about any,
yeah,
I'm
I just
not
see it
making
different
any
as
general.
the cell phone. I see it a totally different beast.
It's true. It's true in some ways. However, we also got correspondence, for example, from families who shared with us that on a Friday when there's free play time, their student is given the opportunity to access YouTube instead of going out. Mm-hmm. And so some parents might be fine with that, and some parents might not be fine with that.
It's unfortunate when it's just, free time with the screen.
I'm not making any generalizations. I'm just acknowledging that there is an evolution going on. There are concerns that now are catching on in other states.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so we were brave enough to do something ahead of the curve this time last year, and I'm just asking for, looking forward to this school year, we consider, well, why and what are we really doing here with our youngest learners?
For sure. Thank you.
Noah, do you have something to add?
Okay, Rochelle?
Well, first of all, as far as I can see it, we're comparing apples and oranges here for the most part. I know that the discussion about using of the iPods and also deals started with the fact that we start using them at an early age in the classroom. And I went out to the classrooms and discussed this with the teachers. I went into the rooms, I said, how much do you use the iPads? Many of them don't even take it out of the closet, so that might be a good reason why we might be buying them. But many of them do use them for whatever small educational use or
creative use. Mm-hmm.
And I feel that I cannot take that out of their hands and say that they can't have them in the room when there will be some really good educational use for them. But the point of the matter is that the teachers are the one that can control the use in the classroom. It's the parents that can control the use of them at home. And I think that in lies a big discussion about how much the parents allow or how much is used at home, which we would have no control over. So I see no reason to have purchased them, and I know that was not your question, Chair Judith, but I just feel that I would be hesitant to ever think about not purchasing them when I know that the teachers can really use them to their advantage.
Right. I mean, and we can also look at Waldorf, the Waldorf model. When my kids were little, we considered sending them there. You want to look at their scores? They're no better than ours. I mean, and they don't, ostensibly, they have almost no access to screens. So there's a balance, folks, with everything in life. I'm one of those parents that when my kids were toddlers and we'd go on the plane and, they have the screen right there and it's always on. I'm the only person out of, 200 seats that brings Scotch tape and a piece of white paper and I stick it on the screen on all of our seats because I can't stand it. So I'm definitely of that mind. I don't know if anyone else in this room has done that, but I'm very proud of that innovation.
mean, you would cover.
I would cover the
screen.
I couldn't stand the fact that we're all sitting there and we have to be, privy to this motion and that right here. I just want to relax, and so I imposed similar puritanical things among our household for this very same reason. So I am no stranger to avoiding, constant screen bombardment at all times, but I also know that there is a healthy balance and many benefits. That, and again, looking at the Waldorf model or looking at Montessori or other, shall we say, supposedly less traditional, although half the time when I go do an observation at a school that calls itself Montessori or calls itself, I see no evidence whatsoever that they're using the pedagogy that I learned at Harvard about what that is. I just see a little more play-based, a little, people are a little fancy-free, foot-free, whatever the phrase is. But I'm just saying there has to be a balance, and I see benefits in a whole bunch of different disciplines and approaches to education.
Can we call to the question, please?
Yeah.
Can I just make a reminder to the board? We did share some preliminary information, so we did survey our teachers on the amount of screen time that our youngest students were getting, and we did make a commitment, just to kind of reset ourselves back a month ago. We did make a commitment that we will update that information and share that with you. Now that we've gotten through a lot of where certain apps are and what we're using, and we've got better control of what's being used and when that's being used, we will come back to you and we will share that information. We know that's important to the board, and we will update that information as we begin the next school year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Judy, as always. So call for the question. I'll move for the approval or ratification of purchase order report
Just call for the vote. We already moved it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that brings us to reports.
Yep.
Superintendent report.
Thank you. This will be very quick this evening. As always, I start with recognitions and acknowledgments. Tomorrow is Juneteenth Day, and so this is a national holiday, and so we celebrate and we recognize Juneteenth Day. Also, this is Pride Month, and so we are recognizing Pride Month in our school district with our flags displayed, not underneath the American flag, but proudly displayed at each of our schools. I want to step back to a couple of weeks ago when we were in attendance. It was Mrs. Manicherry and Mrs. Marcus. It was Mrs. Marcus and Dr. Stern and I that were at the CMAA. That's the Construction Manager Association of America. We were awarded with Project Achievement under the category of education right here. And so we're just so pleased. I wish all board members could have attended because I know everybody would have, but we're really proud of the work. And also Amin received a President's Award himself for his work, so congratulations to him as well. I understand it's a bigger trophy, from what I understand. And so some good work is being done, and as we presented in our strategic plan, it's important to capture all of these moments when we are being recognized in the public, and there were literally 500, 600 people in the room, so that was quite an honor. Speaking of honors, and part of our strategic plan is to recognize the accomplishments of our school district. And so we are in alignment with something that we started last year, and we have our Golden Awards through CSBA. The Golden Gavel Award is an award where we are recognizing the prior year's school board president, and that is Mr. Margot. And so we just worked on that complete application, Ms. Starkins and I, and got some input from some others, and so we feel very confident about that application that was sent to CSBA, as well as the Golden Bell Award. And very proud that we were able to recognize and apply for this award through the Beverly Vista Middle School Bulldog Aid Center, which is just so much in alignment with what the good work at the high school. And so this is a great program to shine, and one that certainly is not replicated often as a middle school. We are one of the very few middle schools in the country to be able to have a dedicated space for a wellness center. And so we feel like that is really noteworthy and should be recognized within the state. So we're very excited about that. And then the other item that's still out there we're waiting to hear back from is the opportunity to make a presentation again as a school board and as a superintendent cabinet at the California School Board Association, their annual education conference. And so to be able to do that 2 years in a row would be just a great kudos to our district for the good work that we're doing. So we should be hearing from them any week now about that. Just very quickly, just some summer projects. It's amazing what some paint can do to an area. And so as you can see, the cafeteria at the high school and also building A at the high school, that you could just see how different the space looks. And this doesn't do it justice here on these slides. You really got to see it in person, but it's really impressive, and it's really pulling all of our buildings together. The color, just that coordination of this construction that's coming offline is really coming together, and it's just where they're complementing each other, our school buildings. And so I wanted to share that with you. There's a lot of work that's going on this summer. So a special thank you to Mr. Haas and his team through summer school programming, through academics and sports, but also just the maintenance department and what we're doing to get ready for the second week of August is people wouldn't believe how much activity is going on around here. I also want to give a congratulations in our personnel report to our newest principal, Antrice Ellerby. So congratulations to her. In our final round, I have to say that in our final round for a new principal, we had 3 sitting principals in our final round. And that says a lot to have that kind of experience coming into our school district. And so, and it was a very comprehensive interview process that we have. And so our finalist, Ms. Ellerby, just rose to the top with some extraordinary experience and some real hands-on work with student achievement and culture and PLCs, and a lot of the work that she has been a proven success record for there are things that we're just beginning in our school district. And so we welcome her with open arms. She's a former student at Horace Mann, which makes the story even better, that she was a student at Horace Mann and also for a time here in the high school. And we welcome her back. We welcome her with open arms, and we're going to be very excited to be able to work with her in the next few weeks. And that is my very short report this night.
Thank you so much. Noah, Mr. Margo, would you care to comment?
No.
Okay,
No.
good.
It's all good in the hood. Thank you very much, Dr. Berge, and I guess we'll say more later during board comments.
Okay. Ms. Manishari?
No, thank you for your presentation.
Ms. Marcus?
I just want to wish Noah good luck on the selection for the school board member. It'd be nice to have someone that I don't think we've had one for quite a while, so it'd be nice to have one. And thank you for your report.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you for your report, and it was a pleasure to meet Ms. Ellerby, and looking forward to having her work with us at Horace Mann, and thank you for your report. Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion for the approval of the collective bargaining agreement between BHUSD and the BHEA OTBS 2024 to 2027.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Margo, seconded by Ms. Marcus. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'll make a motion for the approval of the 2024-25 Local Control Accountability Plan, or LCAP.
I will second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
I will make a motion for the approval of the annual update of the 2023-2024 LCAP.
I'll second.
Motion made by Ms. Marcus, seconded by Mr. Margot. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'll make a motion for the approval of the 2024-25 local indicators.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made by Mr. Margot and seconded by Ms. Marcus. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'll make a motion for the approval of the ELO grant plan.
I'll second.
For the benefit of the audience and the people who listen at home, could we have an explanation of that, please?
Yes. Thank you. All my notes over here. You guys are flying through. I want to.
Well, we know what happens when you get started.
I know. Thank you.
And also what ELO stands for.
ELO plan.
Yeah, extended learning opportunity, and there is the grant which we work with fiscal services, business services, our site-based administration, teachers, and the city of Beverly Hills. So you'll see the plan there. Our plan was always to provide after-school care for students that qualify for English learner supports and or Title I services, qualifying through the free and reduced lunch program. It provides after-school care from 3 to 6 p.m. And then in addition to that, it also provides an opportunity for credit recovery, but also for summer school, which is up and running. And so we have close to 400 students this summer participating in summer school, which compared to last year's program, there's probably close to about 120 to maybe 200. And what's great too is at 11 a.m. today, our registration just opened up. I sent out the communication via Parent Square to those families that qualify for the fall program. And already I have 103 acceptance and still waiting on 260. And that's just between El Rodan, Horace Mann. And so it's been fun. It's a lot of work, but it's exciting. And I think business services, I think facilities, and I think the elementary and middle school admin and staff and the city of Beverly Hills, from Patty Acuna all the way up to for all their support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Oh,
Okay. No, that's it. Thank you.
okay.
Okay, with that, we'll call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'll make a motion for the approval of the ELOP plan.
I'll second.
Okay.
So ultimately, the grant is the way that we spent the expenditure. They're the same. So one is a plan. It's just the way that they were attached. So it's the same. One was a plan. The plan was after school care and summer school. And then the way we spent the funds is that grant section. And that's...
Funds are in the ELOP plan, correct?
Yep, correct. Yep, so one's the plan and one is the way that the actual funds will be expended.
Where do the funds come from?
Oh, thank you.
So thank you. So the ELOP is the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program. Those monies come from the state. It's an additional apportionment that we receive in addition to we receive the minimum state aid. So in addition to the minimum state aid, we get the ELOP monies. And so the ELOG is going to go away eventually, very soon, after we run out of that money. And ELOP will stay basically ongoing. And so it's ongoing funds. However, at some point, we will have to visit the situation that basic aid districts are facing in the sense of we don't generate enough ELOP funds to sustain the program. So while we were able to sustain it last year because we had some carryover ELOP dollars, ongoing, we won't have enough money to sustain it. As far as just with those funds, we'll have to dip into general funds for that. And that's one of the dilemmas that basic aid districts community-funded districts are facing across the state. So there's a lot of advocacy going on right now because those funds are based on your unduplicated pupil percentages and things of that nature. So we get less than a district that has a high unduplicated pupil count. And unduplicated pupils means low-income students or students that are English learners, foster care, or homeless. So essentially, our numbers for those are lower, and so our funding is less. So there will be a time where we'll have to have a further conversation with the board. However, the mandate is still, we still have to fulfill the mandate of the terms of the ELOP program.
Thank you so much.
Very similar to the UTK, so Universal Transitional Kindergarten, again, as basic or community-funded districts, we're mandated to provide that, which we wanted to regardless. But again, it will dip into our general fund.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, with that, call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to business and finance. Can I get a motion for the approval of AB 1200, Public Disclosure of Proposed Collective Bargaining Agreement, OTBS?
So moved.
All in favor?
We need a second.
I will second that motion.
Okay, motion made by myself and seconded by Ms. Marcus.
What, can I ask, what is the difference between the public disclosure of the proposed so we're actually approving it right now, is that correct?
So the approval happened earlier in the agenda when you approved the agreement. That's the actual agreement. The AB 1200 is a disclosure document, which essentially we fill out to prove that we're able to meet the financial obligations that now are a consequence of the agreement that was made. So essentially we fill that out. It's a long document, lots of numbers, multi-year projections. That goes to the county. The county can't approve an AB 1200. They review it. And so their revision of the AB 1200, so they review that document to make sure that we're able to meet the financial obligations. So we also have to publicly disclose it, and so we post it up, in the public, and so we also post it there in case anyone wants to see how we could afford it.
Okay, my question then, what about the other collective bargaining agreements that do we do the same for all the other units?
That is correct, and we've done that for all of the other previous units. So if you look at the previous agreements that we've approved with BHEA, those have all been, also you'll see an AB 1200 attached to that.
I just want the public to know.
Yes, no, thank you for that. That's really important, and if you're ever interested in looking at those numbers, it's whenever we do have it, it'll be in the board agenda or it'll be posted at the district office, and we're happy to discuss numbers. I'm happy to sit down and talk about numbers all day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'd like to make a motion for the approval.
Did we vote on that yet?
No. Does it need to be voted on?
Yes.
No. Dr. Stern made the motion and Mrs. Marcus seconded.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, I'll make a motion for the approval of the 2024-2025 budget.
I'll second.
So, Dr. Stern, I do have a disclosure. So we did do a presentation about this last time, and so I don't have to go back and redo the presentation, but there is a disclosure requirement that we have to fulfill, and so I will show that now. It's the only document, unless you would like me to go back and look at the general terms of the budget, I'm happy to do so, but the document that I'm showing here on the screen, and it'll pop up now here in a few seconds. Okay, so this is called a REU disclosure. It's a requirement for districts that have reserves in excess of a certain percentage. And so in our public hearing on June 4th, we presented our reserve levels. And as you can see, line item 3 shows the total assigned and unassigned fund balances, and as you can see, those numbers are at 31.2 million, then they dip to 30.4, but then they go back up to 32.1. You can see in line 4 that we meet our minimum recommended reserve for economic uncertainties, which is the REU, in all 3 years. The number that you see in line 5 is what we're above the minimum reserve for economic uncertainty. But that 28 million that we're above the 3 million, that number represents, it looks a little different if you looked at the multi-year projection, because that represents Fund 17.0, which is your fund that we have for the reserve, and we need that fund for cash flow purposes. As you all know, our monies don't come in like other districts. They come in they mostly come in December, and then a lot of it comes in March and April, and then some in June. So we need money to be able to make our financial payments to our teachers, vendors, and everyone else. And so in order to do that, we have to have substantial reserves to be able to pay. So essentially, with that said, we need a higher reserve, so it includes Fund 17.0, but we also, by law, have to include our other Fund 17.1 and .2, which are essentially the funds for other liabilities and the Technology Refresh Fund. So that's why that number may look a little bit different, but that's because now we're including 17.1 and 17.2, but essentially that's just, we have to disclose that so that the public is aware of where we are in accordance to our minimum reserve for economic uncertainties.
Thank you.
So in summary, most of that money is spoken for.
Yes, essentially, yes. I mean, again, the majority, the bulk of those funds, you could attribute to the board's recommended 25% reserve level, and the rest of those that are outside of that, that's for the Tech Refresh Fund and for the other liabilities fund.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, returning to the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Now, I would ask, is it possible to make a bulk motion for all the resolutions? Or do they have to be voted on separately?
I believe they have to be voted on separately because they're resolutions. I
Okay.
believe.
Then pardon us for sounding
I'm sorry.
repetitive. No,
Yep.
that's
No,
quite
I
all
would
right.
agree with the resolution.
That's quite all right. Then I'll make a motion for the approval of Resolution 2324-22, authorization of year-end appropriation transfers to be made by LACO.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'll make a motion for the approval of Resolution 2023-24-23, authorizing temporary interfund cash and borrowing for the 24-25 fiscal year.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I will make a motion for the approval of Resolution 2023-2024 temporary transfers from the School Pools Fund for the 24-25 fiscal year.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'll make a motion for the approval of Resolution 2023-24-25, targeting use of education protection account funds for 24-25 fiscal year.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'll make a motion for the approval of Resolution 2023-2024-26, authorization for interfund transfers for the 2024-25 fiscal year.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And I will make a
Motion
motion.
carries.
I'll make a motion for the approval of Resolution 2023-24-27, delegation of administrative authority to process routine budget revisions, adjustments, and transfers for the 2024-25 fiscal year.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that brings us to planning and facilities.
Thank you, Rafael.
Thank you.
So I'll make a motion for the approval of contract with Sports Field Specialties to design and purchase of soccer netting using Keystone Purchasing Network at El Rodeo School.
I'll second. All in favor?
I just wanted to...
I want to ask a question first.
Will, you thought you were getting away with it.
Go
I just
ahead.
want to double check that I think it was 510 feet that was listed in the contract.
Is this going to be
Is it-
around all of El Rodeo, or is this going to be only along Wilshire Boulevard? What is the plan for controlling the flying soccer balls?
Well, that is the plan and the idea for the netting. We'll get to your question in a second, Mr. Margot. It does go on, it's along Wilshire and also along Whittier, and basically the boundaries of the soccer field. And on the Wilshire side, it does extend about 20 feet or so past the soccer field and catching some of the basketball courts as well.
What, Noah, did that answer your question?
So this is a netting that's going to go up. It's not being added to the fence. Is that?
It's netting. It is not chain link. It's a vinyl netting.
And did you have to get DSA approval for this?
We do not, but we do have to get it engineered by a structural engineer.
So I'm sorry, I'm just visualizing.
Mhm.
So we have the, the main entrance gate on Whittier. Okay. And so then this is starting on the corner of Whittier and Wilshire?
No, it doesn't start there. It's a corner, but
Yeah.
it,
So
it
where
goes
does it start?
up. Yeah, up Whittier along the soccer field and it ends at the boundary of the soccer field, which is about halfway up our property.
So it's an L shape.
Yes.
Okay. And then, is there any consideration to just having the L continue on through Wilshire to the last point
We haven't considered it. We can, of course. It'll add to the cost.
Yeah. I would be, I think that would be a really good idea. You know, I've been going to Horseman in the last couple weeks because summer camp is there, and it's given me a chance to compare the different facilities. And Horseman has it on the Wilshire side the whole way through, and I like that consistency, and it creates a sense of consistency and safety.
Do you mean,
And,
Judy, just for clarification, you mean the Robertson side? That part of
Yes,
Horseman? Okay.
correct. And I know, I'm throwing a monkey's wrench into the situation for you, but our hand is in the cookie jar anyways, you know, and it is an L shape, and so maybe on the Wilshire side, we just continue all the way through, and we can keep some things in and keep some things out, and it's a win-win. And hopefully it wouldn't be too much of a expenditure to elongate a little bit.
You're talking about from the corner of Whittier and Wilshire all the way up to where the alley to enter the school, basically?
Yeah, exactly. So it seems like it's going this way on Whittier, and then it's going that way on Wilshire toward Beverly Glen.
Right.
And so it would just continue till the end of the facility, essentially.
Well, they had driveway that can pull into the school.
Well, before the driveway, you know.
So toward where the school...
Through the play yard, through the end of the play yard is what I'm trying to suggest.
So what we could do, just because we do want to get this moving before,
Yes.
the season's going to start and all that stuff. So we could do, if you could approve what we have here, just so we could get the main priority, and then we could bring back a mock-up of what it would look like with your suggestion, and then you could evaluate that separately, and then we can do a change order potentially. And we could go forward that way. But this is more so something more of an immediate need.
Sure.
So I would say if we
Thank
could do
you.
that.
I appreciate you looking into the next step too.
So
Thank
as
you.
not to be scared, do you have any idea? This is only to buy the material and get it shipped to us.
Correct.
Have you any
And
estimate
the
at all?
engineering and design. Are you going to ask about the installation?
Do we
Well-
have any ETA or estimate on what it's going to cost to install it?
Roughly in the range of 60,000, more or less. We got a quote from someone else, which was almost double the cost, so that's why we're going with this company. But their install cost, I believe, was around 80. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
With that, call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'll make a motion for the acceptance and filing of an NOC and release of retention for the BV school site modifications and enhancements, package number 2 project with Kazoni Construction.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'll make a motion for the approval of amendment number 41 to the agreement with DLR Group for architectural and engineering services for Beverly Hills High School modernization project.
I'll second the motion. What exactly is the part of that this modernization is for? Just what specifically? There's still a lot to go on.
Well, this is for the engineering and design for audiovisual, Building C, correct? Yeah, so it's Building C. Originally, we did not include this in DLR scope of work. The intent was to have a third-party engineer come in and design the audiovisual portion of the scope of work. But after DLR has been here for so long and they are comfortable with all of our requirements, we decided to just have them add it to their contract rather than get a third-party engineer online to do the work.
So the services are for the acoustic sound or
It's audio and visual security. That's basically the lump sum of it. Yeah.
Okay, with no further questions or discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'll make a motion for the approval of additional FF&E for the El Rodeo Elementary School modernization project.
I'll second.
Just a quick question on this, and I had asked, but I don't know if my question was responded to. I was asking if there's other FF&E, not at El Rodeo, but elsewhere in the district in storage that would suffice for this request.
So there's quite a bit of need as you know, when we actually when it was designed and up to now, there's been a lot of different changes, and so there is an additional need for some additional furniture. There are some furniture items in other areas of or existing furniture in Hawthorne itself, but a lot of that is used, so you won't have a sense of uniformity. I mean, some of them can be brought, but then you won't have uniform across your different classrooms. So it would look a little awkward to have in one classroom a brand new bookshelf and on the other one you don't. And so essentially what we're trying to do, and we walked it through several times with Mr. Karad and Ms. Sarah Kaber as well, and it's just a necessity. We're not trying to cramp the rooms. It's just there is a lot of things that are moving over, and we want our teachers to have sufficient space to be able to store them.
I agree with all that, and I agree with what you're saying, Mr. Guzman. What I was just wondering is there had been a period of time during this process, especially after Horseman was completed, where there was a lot of FF&E that was ordered new and unused, and it wound up sitting in the basement garage of Horseman, and that's why I was asking if there was if anybody knew of anything like that around the district before we ordered. And if the answer is no, the answer is no. I just
I'm not aware of any.
Had to ask the question.
I'm not aware of anything that's out there that could replace this request.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just want to thank the team too, because we actually, had teachers submit, to us like, we're not sure, can I bring this? And so we spent a great deal amount of time on this, so many of us, to make sure that we're not overspending and we're not going to see something in a garage somewhere where there's the podiums like this one, everywhere. So and thank you for all the extra time that so many people put in, especially Ms. Kaber, to ensure that we're not buying something that we don't absolutely need. We went by teacher, classroom by classroom.
Okay, I appreciate it.
And further, I also want to thank Ken and his team, because they're going to be helping us with installation of some shelving that we could buy in, and get a much better pricing for. And our staff is going to be working on that as well.
I appreciate that. Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Kaber, also for your role in that. So.
Thank you. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, I'll make a motion for the ratification of Amendment Number 2 to the contract with Sandy Pringle for testing and inspection services for additional services at ER School and Horseman Elementary School.
I'll second the motion.
Almost.
What requires the inspection at Horseman? Is that the addition of the playground structures that we're doing?
That's the addition of the shade structures that we were doing and the playground area as well.
This is the same company that we have.
Yeah, so Sandy Pringle was the company we approved almost 2 years ago now to be our DSA inspector. At the time when that went out, they were basically the only inspection services company that, well, not the only one, but one of the many that submitted their proposal, and the district selected them as our architect of record for our projects. Incidentally, we just put out another RFP, and we're reviewing proposals from another batch of inspectors, and we'll probably have a new list coming out in the next month or so.
Well, would they be able to be used in this particular situation?
No, because we want to do the work over the summer. So they won't be on board yet.
All right. Anything further? Discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, wrapping up here. Moving on to professional and official business. So we have brought back an item. There was an approval June 4th regarding the El Rodeo plaque. And one of the board members wanted to revisit it, a possible typo, as well as opening it up to not to subtract anyone, but to welcome others for recognition. Any discussion on that?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Stern, for allowing this to come back. Thank you, colleagues, for entertaining this, hopefully only for a minute, because
Did she ask you for a second on it? Or you asked
there's no motion.
There's no motion here. This is just...
There's no motion yet. Anyway, yeah, I thought there was, because of my elongated history, there were many more folks than on the plaque that was approved on the 4th that played very important roles in voting for bond measures, construction contracts, even what we did tonight. by voting for DLR to extend their work scope. Those are all actions that board members have taken for this whole history of the bond measure E and BH to continue and to be fruitful. And I thought that there was opportunities that we had kind of skipped over to recognize people who really deserve to be recognized, who took very crucial votes in that process. So I had asked I had asked, and then we looked at two options, option 1 and option 2, and I know that there's an option 3 as well, and I.
Mr. Margot, I think on the screen there, it looks like on the left is the one that was approved
right.
June 4th. On the right are some additional folks.
Additional folks. And then there was another option. I also had the philosophy of we shouldn't have to do this every time a building opens. We should have a template that's done and approved, and that we don't have to ask, what goes on the plaque, what doesn't go, whatever. So at least for these bond measures, measure E and BH, right? In the future boards can look at future bonds, and obviously, but these apply to E and BH. So I had proposed options 1 and 2. Oh, they're gone now. There you go. I had proposed a couple of options also that looked at recognizing one version had the actual sitting board at the time of the opening of the school, which is the 4 of us. The other one had a list just of all of the board members since the inception of the bond till now, with the sitting board being asterisked and a note and a marcation at the bottom just noting that we are the sitting board members during the time the building was open. And then there's the third option that was also presented here, which is a little alteration of the previous option approved. So I'm hoping that my colleagues can look at options 1, 2, or 3, and we can settle on one of those tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Margot. One thing, I've had several thoughts, and we can go around and talk a little bit.
Okay,
Rochelle, let me, if I could just flesh this out.
You, Ms. Metro, you want to go first?
No, I'm listening.
Okay, well, this is the third time we're bringing it up, and it's to me, the point of the matter is we're supposed to be really doing what's right for the children and what's good for school, and here we are discussing the plaque for the third time, which is, I think, a little bit, I just couldn't believe it. And I know that we voted for at the last meeting on a specific plaque, and now we're being asked to vote on another plaque, some totally different than the one we voted on. And so the question I asked to myself, why is this being brought up again? And according to what Mr. Margot just explained, he feels there's some names that were left off that should have been included, and I don't have an argument with that one. But going forward, this is the thing that I was going to bring up, and you just touched on it, Mr. Margot, that there needs to be a policy or a standard which we will follow in all future situations so that we don't go through this again. It has to be written, it's a regulation, there's a policy, it will specifically say we have 2 more plaques will probably come up in the near future. And I do believe that we need to have something without going through this situation again. So I'm totally in agreement with you on that, and I had that. As to the other, I don't know. There's something about, it says measure E and BH board members at the time. I'm not sure what that means. Are they supposed to have been on the board at the time that the BH and E were voted on? So if that's the case, were all those people that are now on the list on the board at the time that we voted on it, or were they because they were on the board at some time during the time that it was being constructed? I don't know what the difference is. So that would be one of the things that, personally, to be very honest, I liked what we did the last time. If there are some names that should have been there that we inadvertently omitted, then we need to look at that. But I don't know what the difference is between the BH on the board at the BH was when it's passed, or E or BH were passed, or why they were on the board while E and BH were being spent. I don't know the difference between the two.
Would you like an answer?
Yes, Mr. Margot, please.
Yes, it's both. It's both, Rochelle, because they're both equally important. You can pass the bond measure, and that's important to have access to be able to get the funds, but then board members came by and actually sold the bonds, right? They had a vote to sell the bond series, and you can't build without that. And then they had a vote for construction contracts. You can't build without that. They had a vote for bond managers. You can't build without that. So there were all these elements that these people that are listed played a role in getting these buildings built, whether it was and they all
So the
equally
question
deserve
is
it.
whether we want to do that or we don't want, that's just the question.
I strongly believe that it's the right thing to do, to recognize people. There are people that served on the board, over a period of 8-9 years, voted on millions and millions and millions of dollars in construction. And I believe all of those people should be recognized.
Especially this kind of project because of the complexity. Modernizing this has been, over a decade.
Yeah.
I guess what I'd like to say as well is the difference qualitatively from the one we approved now is not subtracting one, it is opening the circle. And until we have a formal rubric or guidelines that we can meet to discuss about who can and who cannot be on a sign, it's a sign, people. I am leaning towards the inclination of being more in favor of one of our values, which is actually inclusion. And I think that Mr. Margot makes some compelling points for those who definitely put in some effort, and therefore I'm willing to open up as recognition.
Okay, can I ask a question? Regarding the proposed ER option 3 versus ER option 3A,
Wait. So the way I'm looking at it now is ER option 3 was board approved, and that was, that's the one that we have now. And then...
No, the new ones.
Right, okay. Oh, so for the new ones...
I don't have that one.
Yeah.
That's the old one.
That's an old one. I don't have the one
That's
with that.
fine. That's the same thing, so... But
what I'm saying is that I do not have the one that has the red on the side.
I can...
It was earlier. I gave it to you earlier, but
Yeah.
you probably put it back in your folder.
Okay. So I'll just review it for us, okay? The new ER option 3.
Right.
But then, Mandy, I also have a 3A, which has the little educational excellence.
That
So
was
let's put that aside for
yes,
a moment.
Separate.
Okay, I just want to flush through it all together so we're all on the same page, if that's okay. So the ER option 3 that we have in hand today has the emblem at the top, and then it says Modernization 2024.
Can KBEV put it up by chance? Is there any way to... Thanks, Jason. Okay, continue.
Okay, stop me anytime.
Oh, Josh.
On the left-hand side, it has Board of Education, which is us and Mrs. Wells, who was with us at the time of substantial completion.
Right, and that hasn't changed. That's on there.
So that's that. Then we have it subdivided. Before we had it school administration, so now it's district administration and school administration listed separately. So for district, we have Dr. Breggy, Mr. Guzman, and Mr. Karat.
Thank you, KBEV.
Okay, there we go. I'm looking at the one on the right. Okay, school administration, we have Mrs. Kaber, Dr. Kim, and Mr. Painter. On the right-hand side, is this meant to say Board of Education members
Measure
who passed and since Measure E and BH?
I honestly think that until we sit down and we really make a formal set of guidelines and principles based on law or guidelines, I don't know if we can sit here and really parse through individual things like that. I suggest we don't, since we have
to parse through it because we have to have a precise basis for why we're doing things.
But tonight I'm not sure we're going to
someone out.
Correct. I'm not sure if tonight we are going to find all those answers.
It's everybody. There's no leaving anybody out. It's every board member that has served.
Okay, so that's what I'm asking.
Yes.
Sorry. Yes.
Okay. You guys know me. I'm all about accuracy. So I ask questions because I want to make sure that where I'm getting to is the truth. So I have no issue with any of these individual people. I would just like to verify that what you're trying to do is include all board members since the time that Measure E and BH were passed meaning those who passed the bond and those who have sat on the board, whether appointed or elected, at some point in that time.
They opined on those issues,
Okay.
right?
And then in the future, it's possible, for example, I'm just flushing this out, that for building C, for example, or for building B3 and B4, which is on the horizon this time next year, that some of us would be added to this list, right, of the past. Is
Yes.
that what it is?
And anybody
Yes.
that's new on the board.
Right.
Anybody that's new on the board goes on the left-hand side.
That's correct.
Okay, so, yeah, so I don't have an issue with this. I just would like to verify that these folks were in fact part of the chefs in the kitchen since that time.
I mean,
Are you verifying it?
I can verify it
Yeah.
because I worked with 90% of them.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact that the board that voted for Measure E was Stephen, Myra Nushin,
Okay, well, Dr.
and,
Breggy,
and Goldberg.
and
They were all-
respectfully, do you want to also take a moment to look back in your records to confirm this?
Let me ask,
I
what is
want to
the
make
risk?
sure we didn't leave someone out in that
Oh,
case.
well, that's a good point.
There's nobody.
There's nobody else left.
Okay.
So that,
No, that's about, thank you,
that's
Judy,
a good
for
question,
that.
Judy,
because-
but that is everybody. That's why I was being ultra inclusive. Thank you,
Thank you,
Dr.
yes.
Stern, for that term.
Yeah.
And making sure that we had everybody.
We just have to add, I just noticed, it's Dr. Myra Demeter. So we
Dr.
need to
Myra.
add
Okay, sorry,
her
Dr. Myra.
doctorate on there.
Okay.
Okay.
Further discussion, thoughts?
I mean, I will say on one hand, I do think that, you know, the longer this goes on, the worse it is. Because it just means that we're not finishing our projects in an expeditious way. That's
I'm sorry, what do you mean? What
the more names that are on it just means it's just been taking a really long time. That's my personal perspective. With that said, if you guys want to include, you know, all the folks, Rochelle, is that our new policy? So meaning going forward for B3 and B4?
Well, that's why I'm saying.
I don't understand, you know.
I think that if we wanted, if the new policy says that this with Board of Education, district or administration, school administration, if we're going to do that, then we have to set that, we have to have that written in so that we know what's going to go on the future ones. And this list is going to get longer and longer as we move on.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to be long next year.
I don't see a risk of oversharing as I do under recognizing.
It's not like people are going to see this from the street and say, wait, I don't see that name. It's a wonderful way to honor the work of people that came before us and frankly, all of us that may not be here for the opening of, let's say, Building C, right? The new Conheim, we may not be around for that. So it's a wonder, but we put in so much time and effort into making these projects happen. So it's a wonderful way to say thank you for your term of service.
I know you can't single out one name and say, well, I don't remember him. I mean, where was he? What did he do? Because I can't do that. And I just feel that if we're going to, we need to make sure that there's a plan in place the next time before we do another plaque. I think it has to be something that we know ahead of time so we don't go through this again.
Agreed. I think I have many questions. I've learned a great deal. I must have spent probably 6.5 hours over the weekend through various people reaching out to me, discussions, learning more about plaques than I ever cared to. But I say that jokingly. But I think, no, I have a lot of questions, and I think that in moving forward, if we do find extra time, if we were to organize some sort of guidelines so that these questions can be answered without having to or for everyone to use their own discretion about who's in, who's not, because that doesn't feel right to me.
Well, I remember looking at the one that came from B1 and B2. And,
Right.
And I don't remember.
Well, it had to be redone.
It was not
It's
that
like
elaborate in terms
Plaquegate
of people that could have been listed
began.
that were not listed.
Plaquegate.
But moving forward with this mentality, Rochelle, allows us to do that. It allows us to recognize people, and I think so. I'm okay with it's gone again. I'm okay with Mandy, the
Okay.
one that's the option 3 that's proposed today.
Right.
You know,
Option
I
3
will-
proposed today is adding a number of individuals. There's no one subtracted from the one that was approved.
But
Right.
can I make a notation just in terms of accuracy? So I have the one from last time, which includes the BHHS approved by the board for reference only in regard to B1 and B2. And I'm just going to point out that I'm seeing some names here on the new option 3 that's proposed that were not there for past Board of Education members. I'm not going to mention the names because I don't want anybody to feel that I'm singling them out, because for me, this is not a personal or individual thing. I'm just going to ask you, Dr. Breggy, to please go through and verify that the folks listed under Measure E and BH, and this needs to be revised too, to be more accurate. So it's Measure E and B, Board of Education members since Measure E and BH?
I think I look at it when it says Measure E and BH, it's board members during the time of
Those issues and
from
voting matters.
voting to expenditures for
Got you.
Measure
You're
E and Measure
related
BH.
to Measure E.
And I don't think it's, and this may not be popular, but I mean, we're not going to go back and change that, Mr. Haas, that plaque for a third time.
No, I'm not asking you to
no,
do
I
that.
know. I'm just saying
Yeah.
going forward is, and we can look at some policy.
We kind of need some, I feel like people are looking for some answers.
But I think the work that we're doing now,
discretion.
if there's board, like people don't understand that the hundreds of hours that are being put in, that if you're no longer on the board, then, to not be recognized for this work, this is, I think, a small gesture of gratitude.
That costs us nothing, really.
Yeah, I just want to be accurate.
Sure.
And,
Yep.
And so that's why I ask. And so that's why I was comparing in my mind, when I reviewed it, the one for B1 and B2. And I recognize that it's possible that maybe a mistake was made there, and that's why there are some names showing up in this proposal that were not there. I'm okay either way, I just want it to be accurate.
Judy, I agree with you. I think it was a mistake, and I think we're correcting that mistake with this. And moving forward, we right the ship, and we do what's good, what's right and fair and just, I believe. So.
Okay. I could make a motion for the vote of, I'd like to make a motion for the approval of ER new option 3 presented and discussed June 18th, 2024.
Subject to verification.
I will second. What do you mean subject to
I
verification?
just want Michael to go back and verify.
I don't want him to
unless
do
you
that. I feel like we have spent so much time on plaques. I'd really not like.
It's every board member.
You're verifying now?
Yes.
Okay, with the subject to Myra being Dr. Myra Demeter.
Correct.
Yes, that should be.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
The other thing, just want to, do we want to add just on 3A, do you want the educational excellence on there or no? Like, I'm ready to move on.
No, I don't think.
I can do without.
Yeah.
Okay.
What?
That's okay.
So
long already.
Viewers, there was an option we were considering our mission statement, educational excellence. It was a really nice cursive overlay that was there. I think for the sake of brevity and keeping this rather complex issue more simple, we should just revert to not using that.
Yeah, plus if for any reason our mission or vision changes.
So that's no longer.
It was just our attempt at making
I get
non-cemetery looking.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's got, yeah, nice bright and red. Big and red, right? It's going to be red? It's going to have red on it?
All right. Okay.
No.
Okay. Let's move along to the approval of the CSBA awards.
Well, it'll be self-serving if I make this motion, but I'm going to do it anyway.
All right.
There you go.
I'll make a motion to approve the Golden Bell and Golden Gavel submissions for CSBA.
I'll second. Discussion. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Oh, was that for both of them? Or
Yes, I
Okay.
made it for both
Yep.
of them.
All right, so that brings us to near the end here. Communication from board members. Mr. Margot?
So much and so little to say. I don't know. Dr. Breggy, I wish you a wonderful educational excursion.
Thank you.
I don't know what is out there in the ether, so I'll leave it at that.
Oh, it's out there.
Okay.
Please share. Where is he going? I don't know if everyone is aware.
Shalom, Breggy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, Dr. Breggy is on an educational trip to Israel, and on behalf
Middle
of our
East.
district, with other educational leaders, administrators, and board members from around Southern California
Yes.
and
Well, LA County.
LA County.
Yep.
And we are very thrilled that he will be representing and having this experience and bringing so much back to us. I was fortunate enough to go to Israel at one point in my life, so I'm excited to see it through other eyes and
Thank you.
hopefully get back there. I think that's all I had. I have the Human Relations Commission meeting this coming up on Thursday, so I'll have a report for them and from them at the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Just want to confirm that our next meeting is on July 9th.
That's correct.
July 9th is our next meeting, yes.
Great. And also the one after that is August 6th. And I just want to double check to make sure that waiting
Yes.
that whole month will be okay from an operational standpoint.
Yes, we can make that work.
Okay. Thank you.
Judy, I can throw out that in the cases when we've had that happen in the past, if we have had to come together and call a meeting between July 9th and August 6th, let's say, we do that for either hiring purposes or whatever. So it doesn't mean we can't meet, it just means we don't have any scheduled.
I know, but I won't be around. Okay.
We're not going to work around. We're not going to go against your schedule, Mandy, but what we're talking about is usually some sort of operational pressing issue.
Absolutely.
And if it has to get, then we can do it.
I just want to wish you a very safe journey to Israel. I'm looking forward to the pictures when you come back, or the pictures that you will send along the way.
Thank you.
I think that you will have a very unusual experience, and I'm sure it's going to be a wonderful one. And just enjoy the trip.
I will.
And I would just like to also mention that I attended a Health and Safety Commission meeting last week. The speaker highlighted was Mark Berkman, who is the head of social media safety, the organization who works with our school district. He spoke at the meeting, and he's quite well renowned in his profession. I want to thank KBEV for their summer attention to bringing this forward to the television tonight. Thank you very much, KBEV. And I want to wish the rest of you all a wonderful 2 weeks, and we'll see you all in 2 weeks. But Dr. Brady, you will be back by then, as I recall.
I might come back.
You might?
No, I will be back. I will be back.
Good, and safe journey.
Thank you.
Yes. And again, I just wanted to echo the sentiments. We wish you a very safe and fulfilling trip
Thank you.
over to that area. And I know that you are learning about it, a bunch of different things. Can you tell us a little bit about what sort of activities or excursions?
So it's not just a sightseeing trip. So
Right. No, I
there
know
is a
that.
focus on education, and we have the opportunity to meet educational leaders from around the area in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and from other faiths. And it's really an opportunity to bring people together to look to see how education is being facilitated halfway around the world.
All right, well, that sounds wonderful. I don't have any further comments. So with that, we hope to see you July 9th. That's our next meeting, and we will adjourn. Thank you.
So